Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Looking for a pair of shoes? Let's Up Stores has a wide range of selection for unisex footwear. We have the best quality of all brands at pocket-friendly prices, and we make deliveries countrywide. Just place your order or reach us on 0772 08 0090. You can also check up at Let's Up Stores on all our social media platforms. Let's Up, craft your own footprints.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital. The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Wasuzota gumunanga kedena olunaku olwaleero olunaku lwakuna ennaku z'omwezi tubala 16 omwezi guno gwennyini gwe tulimu ogwa Museveni. Nze mbuuza walidde ku Museveni eyo gy'oli mwazirabiko nga zibuuka abazifunyeeko kali muziweereze bannammwe abatannalyako ate nabo basobole okuba nga bawoomerwako. Waliwo yandaze nti bazifunyeeko naye za ddoozi omira emu olunaku emu omulundi gumu, so buli lunaku olina kulyako emu. So mbabuuzaako yonna gye musezidde okuba nga mutulaba. Nze omumbejja luwedde Lilian era nga mbaaniriza ku program The Mighty Drive. Akanyomero ke tulimu ke ka Mighty Global News Updates. Ngenda kubanga nkuwa ebimu ku ebyo ebikoze amawulire wane waffe Uganda n'ebitundu by'eggwanga ebyenjawulo. Akadde bakana bakatusobozesezza tujja kubanga ate tugendako mu mawanga ate amalala nkuwe nayo ebifaayo. Naye nga nkwaniriza era ng'olunaku olwaleero nga bwe luli lwakuna obeera ondaba ku set oba obeera ondaba nga nkutuusaako updates ate oluvannyuma tugenda kuba nga twegattibwako omwami Gumisiriza Sylivin. Tugenda kuba twogera ku nsonga ez'enjawulo zikwatagana ku kibiina kya Alliance for National Transformation. Bingi nnyo ebiriyo, akasirikiriro kangi, naye omukulu ono ajja kubanga abitunnyonnyola. Naye nga tannaba kuba nga twegattako, nze kankuwe ebikoze amawulire wanaatuukira oba wennaawunzikira ye wajja okuba nga atwegattirako. Kale program etambule okutuuka ku ssaawa 4 ez'akalasamayazi. Tuli butereevu ku the Alternative Uganda ne Digital TV Facebook pages, so nga ate YouTube channel yaffe eri the Alternative Uganda. So nkusaba subscribinga ate tubenga tutambulira wamu onyumirire programs enyovu zetulina. Kale kantandike ne updates zaffe ez'olunaku olwaleero program ate tujongere. Ngenda kubanga ntandikira mu Parliament era nga Speaker wa Parliament Anita Among ate yatandise okubanga alondoola okunokosa n'okuwandiika ababaka abeetaba mu ntuula za Parliament. Ono nno Speaker yategeezezza olunaku lw'eggulo nti ababaka abanaayosa entuula wa 15 wa kukozesa etteeka bafiirwe ebifo byabwe mu Parliament. Kakati ebyo nno we bigendera maaso nga bo abali ku ludda oluvuganya government beediima oba baazira entuula za Parliament ng'ensonga ze bawa kwe kuba nti abantu baabwe baabuzibwawo era nga bano beediimye kakati okumalira ddala akaseera akawera tebakyatula mu ntuula za Parliament. Okwediima kwabwe kwatandika nga Deputy Speaker wa Parliament Thomas Tayebwa yali mu nkato, naye kakati ne Speaker Nalongo Anita Among ate bwe yakomyewo bano nno abevumbi akafubo era nga mu kafubo kano mwalimu ne baminisita okulaba nti batema empenda ez'okunoonya abantu baabwe awatuufu we bali, naye bo ne balaga nti bwe kibanga ensonga zaabwe tezinnakolebwako si baakudda mu Parliament. Era nga munnanga olunaku olw'eggulo Speaker yategeezezza nti okulondoola n'okuwandiisa ababaka bwe kwatandise era nga ababaka abavuganya bo bategeezezza nga bwe batagenda kutiisibwa. Ensonga ezo nno bwezito bwe ziri ziva mu Parliament ez'ababaka okubanga tebakiika. Bo balina ensonga zaabwe zebawa era zibagamba nti zetaaga okubanga zikolwako olwo nno basobole ate okudda mu Parliament okuteeseza abantu ababatuma. Mu bufu bwe bumu nga nkyali ku Speaker wa Parliament Anita Among olunaku era olw'eggulo yavuddeyo n'akolokota aba KCCA olw'okupapirira ate kwe baliko okwokukola enguudo munnange nga kino kikolebwa olw'enkiiko ezigenda okubeerayo omwaka ogujja era nga Uganda esuubira okukyaza abakulembeze ab'amawanga ag'enjawulo era nga bano basobera ddala mu 100. Speaker yategeezezza nti si kya bwenkanya KCCA ate okubanga ezuukuka mu kaseera kano olw'abagenyi ate neekolako enguudo ezo zokka abagenyi gye banaayita kyokka nga ewalala abannansi ate ebintu tebitambula bulungi. Kale KCCA eri mu kugenda maaso n'okubanga eddaabiriza enguudo ez'enjawulo okubanga zituukaganye n'omutindo olw'ensonga nti twetegekera abagenyi ate abagenda okubanga bajja wano mu ggwanga Uganda omwaka ogujja. Ensonga ezo kanziwummulizaawo ate neyongereyo mu ggulire eddala ne bonda banyangwiriza omugenyi waffe emazidde okubanga atwegattako, so ampitamu lukwakwayo tusobole okubanga ajja ate alambulule ensonga. Minisita w'ebyamateeka Norbert Mao olunaku olw'eggulo yagugumbudde gavumenti ku ky'okutyoboola eddembe ly'obuntu wano ewaffe mu Uganda. Yategeezezza nti okutyoboola kw'eddembe ly'obuntu wano mu Uganda kweyoleka lwatu era nga naye embeera eno ate emukeese era n'ategeeza nti tasobola ate kusirika busirisi ng'ebyo bigenda mu maaso. Mu kwogera bino ate yabadde mu lukuŋŋaana olw'eddembe ly'obuntu era nga luno lwategekeddwa ekitongole chapter 4 era nga kino kirwanirira eddembe ly'obuntu ate n'abalala bangi. Kasooke tuwulire Honorable Norbert Mao mu ddakiika ntono nnyo ate nkomewo mbongereyo ne updates zaffe z'olunaku olwaleero.
It's not my duty to come here and sanitize the human rights situation in Uganda. I am disgusted by it myself, if you want to know the truth. I want to tell you there's no more image to protect. The government in terms of human rights is stark naked. I can tell you frankly, I have a freedom to agree to disagree with the government in which I serve, provided the disagreement is clear. And I want to promise that as long as I'm the Minister of Justice, where the government is wrong, you will not find me defending what is wrong. because I have some values I believe in, and I want to be true to those values. I'd rather be false to the government, but true to my values. So I want to declare myself your ally in these difficult times as we head to 2026.
The fact that Nicholas was arrested and jailed is in itself a sign that, you know, the space for human rights activists in Uganda is not as safe as it should be.
It is not healthy for the president of the country to stand up and say XYZ civil society organization are enemies of the state. I think that's not a very good beginning for engagement, because once the president declares you an enemy, then there's no room for dialogue. So we continuously advise the president of Uganda to use a language which recognizes that every difference of opinion is not necessarily a difference of principle. Those who had arrested the NUP presidential candidate didn't want him to be granted bail. So-called partners from abroad who are making phone calls to political leaders in Uganda and telling them to bring people on the streets so that the state can be provoked to carry out a massacre, and then the massacre will push the international community to invoke the right to protect.
Ye Honorable Norbert Mao ate ng'alambalula ku nsonga z'eddembe ly'obuntu. Sisobola kubanga nzira mu byayogedde wabula okubanga nkwongerayo mu updates zaffe z'olunaku olwaleero. Eddakiika ziri 12 zezaakayita ku ssaawa 2 ez'amakya g'olunaku olwaleero. Mighty Drive ye program gy'olaba nze omumbejja Luwe Deridian era nga kanyomero ke tulimu ke ka Mighty Global News Updates. Neeyongeddeyo ne Katuukiro wa Busoga Dr. Joseph Muvawala yavudde n'atendereza omukwano ate ogulagiddwa wa Kyabazinga bwa Busoga wakati mu nteekateeka y'embaga ya Kyabazinga era ng'eno egenda kubanga ebeerawo olw'omukaaga lwa Ssabbiiti eno. Katuukiro yeebazizza bonna ababakwatiddeko mu nteekateeka eno omuli abantu ssekinnoomu, mulimu amakampuni, mulimu amasomero n'abalala bangi nnyo abavuddeyo okudduukirira ate enteekateeka eno. Mu kwogera bino yabadde ate ali ku Sheraton Hotel era ng'eno yabadde nayo akwasibwa ensimbi okuva mu bakulembeze ba Arur era nga wabaddewo n'abantu ssekinnoomu kw'ossa n'ebitongole eby'enjawulo ate okuba nga bayambako mu nteekateeka y'embaga eya Kyabazinga. Mu buufu bwe bumu aba Busoga Parliamentary Caucus nabo bawaddeyo ate obukadde 55 okubanga ziyambako mu kuteekateeka embaga ya Kyabazinga. Omukolo guno gugenda kubanga gubaawo lwa mukaaga lwa Ssabbiiti eno era ng'enteekateeka yonna yamaze dda okubanga efuluma okulaba nti ebintu byonna bitambula bulungi nnyo. Dr. Joseph Muvawala era mbufu bwe yategeezezza nti omulimu gutambuddeko ebitundu 95 ku buli 100 era nga ebisinga bamaze okubanga babikolako okugeza okuteekayo tents, abatimbi bali mu kugenda maaso n'okutimba. Kale nga ettaano ezo ezisigaddeyo bagenda kubanga bazikolako mu nnaku zino era nti bwe lunaatuukira olw'omukaaga emirimu gijja kuba giwedde 100 ku 100. Omukolo gw'okugatta yategeezezza nti gwakutandika ku ssaawa 5 zennyini by saa 7 bebe nga bawunzise oluvannyuma abagole bagenda ate bawumulemuko katono then oluvannyuma bajje ku reception. Naye nga tujja kubanga tugezaako okubatuusaako ebinaabeera ku mukolo guno gwe anaabeera ku internet digital nayo tujja fuba okulaba nga tubibatuusaako. Naawe omanye omukolo guno gwatambudde gutya era biki ebiriyo. Awo nga nvuddewo abakulu b'ekitongole era ekivunaanyizibwa ku bibalo wano mu ggwanga Uganda, Uganda Bureau of Statistics bavuddeyo ne bakakasa nti enteekateeka z'okwetegekera okubala abantu wano ewaffe mu Uganda zitambula bulungi nnyo era nga ku mulundi guno tewasuubira oba tebasuubira kiyinza kubalemesa nga bwe guzze guba era nga bategeezezza nti abakulembeze mu gavumenti ez'ebitundu naddala mu district z'enjawulo obutamanya bitundu byabwe wamu n'enkaayana ku ttaka mu bitundu ebyenjawulo bino nno birabika nga bye biziŋŋamizza emirimu gyabwe naye enteekateeka zonna bategeezezza nti zitambula bulungi nnyo. Awo nvuddewo bo abakulembeze okuva mu disitulikiti ey'Ebundibujjo beeraliikirivu nnyo ate olw'ennamba y'ababundabunda abava e Congo okubanga beeyongera. Bano nno bagamba ekisinga okubakwatako oba okubaluma kwe kuba nti abantu bano ababundabunda abayingira mu ggwanga tebaagala kugenda mu nkambi z'ababundabunda wabula nga bano bafuna we beggama mu nnyumba z'abamu ku bannansi oba abantu ab'enjawulo mu bitundu ebyo, era nga bano bagamba nti kyeraliikiriza olw'ensonga nti kiyinza okuviirako ate endwadde eziva mu bukyafu. Ababundabunda abayitirivu beeyongera wano mu ggwanga. Kinajjukirwa nti eggwanga Uganda lyerimu ku mawanga ago agalinamu abanoonyi b'obubuddamu abayitirivu era nga tukwata kifo kya ku mwanjo nnyo mu nsi yonna okubanga nti tubuddamya abantu ababundabunda. So isaidi eyo Ebundibujjo yo abakulembeze bali mu bweraliikirivu olw'ensonga nti ennamba y'ababundabunda oba abanoonyi b'obubuddamu abava e Congo yeeyongera buli lukya, so ne basaba wabeewo ekikolebwa ku nsonga eyo. Neeyongeddeyo minisita omubeezi ow'ebibiina ebiwozi by'ensimbi wano mu ggwanga Uganda, Haji Haruna Kasolo ate yakuutidde abasiraamu wano mu ggwanga okwettanira enteekateeka za gavumenti nga bano nno bakola ebibiina ate basobole okufuna ensimbi ez'okwekulaakulanya. Minisita we yayogeredde bino yabadde asisinkanyeemu n'abakulembeze b'abasiraamu mu disitulikiti y'e Kayunga era nga bano babadde bakubaganya ebirowoozo ku ngeri gye bayinza okuba nga bejja mu bwavu. Eggulire eryo nditadde awo neeyongeddeyo n'enkuba efudemba ensangi zino ate yaleese ab'ebutalejja nga munnange ebyabwe si birungi era ng'enkuba etonnya oba eyatonye yayonoonye ebintu ebiwerako era nga embeera eno yakosezza abantu mu ggombolola eziwerera ddala 7 okusingira ddala ab'e Nabiganda ng'era eno n'oluguudo lwaguddemu ate gatako okuba nti n'ebirime byabwe munnange byasaanyiziddwawo. So embeera eyo bwetyo bweri naye nga baatulabula nti enkuba yo ekyatonnyera ddala okutuuka ate mu mwezi ogwa Desemba. Enkuba nnyingi nnyo ennaku zino era nga nsaba ffenna tubeere bulindaala especially abakozesa amakubo bw'olaba nti amazzi gasazeeko ate gwe towaliza mpaka kubanga oyitawo because bingi nnyo ebituukawo ng'amazzi ago gasazeeko ekkubo. Oyinza okwesanga ng'oluguudo luguddemu kale ne gaba nga gakutwala. Eddakiika ziri 18 ezakayita ku ssaawa 2 ez'amakya g'olunaku olwaleero. Updates zaffe naatera okuba nga nze wunzika ate tusobole okuba nga tweyongerayo ne programu yaffe ey'olunaku olwaleero. Ttiimu y'eggwanga ey'omupiira ogw'ebigere awo nno ngenze mu byemizannyo eya Uganda Cranes ate yakoze okutendekebwa kwayo okwasoose wansi w'omutendesi Joseph Paul ono nno nga yayanjulwa gye buvuddeko yeyadda mu kifo kya Micho yali omutendesi w'ettiimu y'eggwanga eya Cranes era ng'ali mu kwekenneenya bazannyi okumanya aliwo akola atya era okubanga abayambako okubanga batraininga bulungi kale ate okubanga beetegekera empaka ez'okusunsulwamu amawanga gagenda okwetaba mu mpaka za FIFA World Cup. Enze ensonga nazo katulinda ate bwe zinaatambulayo. Bannansi ba Palestine abawererako ddala bakoseddwa mu lutalo ababadde abakonkomalidde mu ddwaliro lya Al Shifa era nayo balumbiddwa amagye ga Israel era nga bano bakoseddwa bunnambiro so nga ate nnamba eno yabadde nnene era nga okusinziira ku magye ga Israel babadde bali mu bikwekweto okuwenja n'okufuuza ab'akabinja k'aba Hamas era nga mu kuwenja kuno ate bamaliriza nga bangi nnyo abakoseddwa. Updates zaffe nzikomezaawo, tugenda kubanga tegwatibwako omwami Sylivin Gumisiriza ava mu kibiina kya Alliance for National Transformation. Ensonga ezigenda okwogerwako zezo zennyini ez'ekibiina kyavaamu era nga genda kubanga amukutuusaako bulungi nnyo. Beerako okwese comment section okubuuza ebibuuzo. Nze Omumbejja Luwedde Lilian katubreakingemu katono nnyo.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Are you craving for that special meal that will entice your taste buds and leave you with lasting thrilling memories? Look no further. Spice Island Bulenga has got your answer. Natural, fresh and delicious juice, the best meals. Don't miss our daily specials from Monday to Sunday. Pizza Wednesday, Saturday Pizza Bonanza, you buy one and take two. Come dine with us and feel the experience. We are located at Prime Shopping Center in Bulenga, Mitiana Road. For inquiries, call us on 0704111720. Spice Island, we treat your cravings.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, Bikola. Did you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Looking for a pair of shoes? Les Up Stores has a wide range of selection for unisex footwear. We have the best quality of all brands at pocket-friendly prices, and we make deliveries countrywide. Just place your order or reach us on 0772 080090. You can also check up at Les Up Stores on all our social media platforms. Les Up, craft your own footprints.
Hi, Rogers. Can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes, it can. Although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be normal.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning. You're welcome to today's edition of the Mighty Drive. My name is Roger Storiabwe, and with me is a gentleman and official from the Alliance for National Transformation. And today we're going to have a discussion about that particular party. It's one of the parties that are highly revered in town, but also one where a lot of people still sort of stay up away from joining it. I don't understand. There's that bittersweet relationship between the party and the general public. A lot of people think that it is one of the parties that is founded on good principles and values, but it's also one those same people are not openly accepting to join. So what could be the reason? Some of those are the issues we're going to be interrogating this morning. Later on, if time allows, we'll also be talking about one of the discussions that are going on around town about the National Health Insurance Scheme and the bill that is still in Parliament. How feasible it is. We're going to talk about how affordable it is. We'll look at the options that are being tabled that are in that particular bill and see how that can relate. And of course, we'll get a position from the NT. What do they think about that? And also, if, again, time allows, we'll also look at the African Growth and Opportunity Act and how Uganda can do that, or maybe in the event that we get back, because it has been precedented before. A lot of countries have been kicked out, suspended, but also again readmitted. In the event that happens, how prepared should we be? What is it that we need to put in place to make sure that we do benefit from it next time? So that is going to be the discussion later on. So to begin with, I'm going to invite him to say hello to us and tell us how the NT has been. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Rogers. I am glad to be hosted again. I think it's about a year so since I was last here. And I'm glad to be here. Glad that you reconnected when you were put down. That was not a fair play.
It wasn't.
That was really bad. There was a lot of things that really happened. We felt the same pain with you because quite a number of people are listening to you and they were missing out on good, genuine, credible information. Nevertheless, we thank God you're back. Nice. And I'm glad I'm here.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So let's begin with where you are at the NT.
Yes.
How is it? How are the things going? To begin with, just let's put out a blank check so you can feel free to shed the lights. But how is the NT doing? How are you progressing? How are you doing in the political landscape as it is? One of the parties that are trying to change the status quo and how the political game is being played. One against the Israeli tradition that has happened since time immemorial, and one that you're trying to introduce moving forward. How is it coming out?
Great. Thanks for the question. And you know very well that change is not an easy thing.
It is not.
And depending on what you want to change and where you're changing to, then there are many things that are going to be involved. One, the preparedness and the resolve, the resilience you're going to have. Because, when you're going to change, you're going to meet some resistance.
Absolutely.
Well, you get some people who will want to identify with you and at different levels still. because some, they think you are holding something of value, and they say, oh yeah, that's a very good thing, but they're not coming forward to make their input so that that change can happen. You will get others who will say, so what can we do? Because they are buying into. So there are two elements here. Some are convinced but not convicted.
Exactly. And we want to understand why that is.
Yeah.
Because for an individual, it's, and I'll take it to this.
Yes.
I hope you excuse me for using
this
relation. This, for example, being here and you see a very beautiful girl. And meanwhile, she's probably available, and you say, you know what, this girl is very beautiful. You want her, but you're not moving forward to get her. What does that speak to your need for that, and how that is going to progress? The party is good, and a lot of people say so. Yeah. A lot of them, even those who are not a part of it, even those who are part of other parties, they think you have good principles, they think you have good qualities, but they don't join. Have you sort of interrogated why that is happening?
Very good. Let's go back a little bit to that girl example. You say a beautiful girl, you need to take a move, but
you're not.
You are basically not. It could be two-way. It could be either you fear what it requires to meet such a beautiful lady. Maybe you're not in position to take her to the right place to have a conversation. Or it could be that she's in a state that even when she looks available, you don't have an understanding of what basically requires you to get to her. Now, come to AN team. We are not rating it as but I do really agree with what you're saying, that quite a number of people feel this is the party to
align with.
To align with, but there's a challenge. Now you see, good things don't come easy. There has to be an effort. There has to be a focus. There has to be a resolve for you to have something good. And at that point, when you're putting in your effort, there are some things you've got to sacrifice. Now, and things don't wake up in the morning and find good things. They must have been worked on way before, for quite some time. Very many sacrifices made progressively in view of that good thing. So it is possible to be admired from a distance, but you think something is of a requirement that you probably do not have or you're not willing to give. Let me get to this particular case. We meet them also, but they're asking us, what are you guys doing? So it is that we should position ourselves in a way that we are convincing that what we are doing is that thing that they should make them come in. But they forget that takes time to get to it. And it's not doing itself. It's being done by people. There's an energy. One challenge is this: the way we define or the way we look at politics in this nation, first of all. To think that politics, if you're not doing the kind of traditional politics that we have, then you're not doing politics at all. Unfortunately, for very many people who still say politics is the dirty game. So they don't want to go in politics because it is dirty. Now they leave it for dirty people, and then what else should they expect?
Dirty governance and services.
Dirty governance, dirty services. So for ANT to be seen as good and people do not want to basically join, I think that is self-defeating. It is not adding value to them. It's not adding value to the party. It's not adding value to the nation. And we are all losing. For those of us who are there trying to do the good thing, it's going to take us much longer than it ought to have taken us if those people looking at it to be a good party would choose to join. then we would consolidate efforts and make up a good party that speaks to the needs and the expectations of the people as far as this nation is concerned. That does not mean that we are not supposed to be positioning ourselves as ANT to still be attractive to the good people. I do agree. We are trying as much as possible, but it's not an easy one. And within our capabilities, that's how we end up going into the grassroots mobilization. Because we know for sure you're not going to have this nation stable when the communities are not stable. We know for sure you're not going to have this nation stable when you have got leaders right from the grassroots. Commendable, people of integrity, people who are honest, that are within the party. That should you be on top and send resources to the community, then you're so sure they will reach. And that's why, as ANT right now, we are in grassroots mobilization. You are asking what's happening as far as ANT is concerned. So we are in grassroots mobilization, and this is how we carry them out. It's not a rally. There are meetings. There are meetings which are scheduled. There are meetings which are done with the security apparatus well aware that we are going to be in this space at this time and we're going to be speaking to the people within that area. At this point, we go up to the sub-counties. So we hold meetings on every sub-county, at least, at minimum, 2 meetings per day, once we have done that arrangement. So mid-morning and then in the afternoon to another place. And this way, every place we go to, usually after 5 days, then the 6th day, we call for a district meeting. So every place we go to, we identify some people whom we invite now into the district meeting and prepare them to begin to go back and keep speaking and connecting with people that would like to join the party. That's our philosophy. That's how we want to run it. Because I would give you an example. In places where we did grassroots mobilization before the elections, we have results. Example is Terego. At least up to LC5, we have the chairman. And we are sure that at the bare minimum, he's doing what is expected of him together with his councillors. For us, you might want to say, why don't you want to have a president? Yes, the president is good. The MPs are good. But whom are they serving? They're serving the local community. So why not then strengthen from down as far as putting up a construction is concerned? Should we run into this behavior of running, rallies here and there and there? We are more or less putting a tent, and you know how strong a tent is. When the wind comes, it will blow it. But that's not the intention of ANT. We intend to build a concrete structure, because we are not going to change the culture or the narrative of the politics of this nation when we are doing the same things that have been done since time immemorial as far as this nation is concerned, and they have not worked.
So for the far that you have come,
yes,
and all the work that you have done, do you feel that the people are even responsive? And I want to put it this way. We have some of your leaders, especially one who is now, I think, the national coordinator,
yes,
Alice. She lost her primaries.
Yes.
And politics is a win or lose. I don't want to put her on hot seat that why did she lose. But isn't that also telling of what she stands for, maybe, or how what she stands for sells to the community of people that she wants to represent? Recently you had Paul Mwiru, who I think a long time cadre of the ANT,
yes,
could defect to another political party that believes, I would say, entirely different ideology from what you present. How does that then build the confidence in people you are trying to tell that, look, this is the approach we think is right, and this is how we get to the promised land that we're going to get to?
Great. To respond to that one a little bit fast, Rogers, there's no way, there's no right way of doing a wrong thing. There isn't. I mean, it is either right or it is wrong.
There's no middle ground.
There's no middle ground. Two, what happens here is that in an environment in which we've lived, especially in the Ugandan context, for the long period, we are at a point where most of us have got uphill desires, but we are plowing downhill habits. There are things we want to get to, but we think we are just going to be in bed, dream, wake up in the morning, we find them on the door, and we get them. And that's going to be a dangerous space in which we are playing. As far as this direction is concerned, for anyone who is thinking about changing the narrative of the politics of this nation, needs to know that it's going to be work, it's going to be hard work. You've got to suspend your the kind of gratitude that you're looking out for. Otherwise, you'll get at this point, you'll begin again knocking. Now, let me go to the examples that you've basically used as far as ANT and elections are concerned.
Yes.
You know very well that the elections in this country are mad with lots of money.
Absolutely.
Which money cannot be justified where it is coming from and cannot be confirmed of its consistency. Now, when you have a country where the community is at a point where they can sell their souls to the extent that somebody chooses to get 10,000 to pass or to vote somebody for 5 years, when he has got chicken at his home or her home, that is way more than the 10,000 for which he has sold his soul for 5 years. Now, where is the problem? And when did it start? It's a long time ago thing, and it's just within somebody. It's just within that particular environment. Now, you're not going to uproot, you're not going to remove a tree without uprooting it. If you feel you want to change this nation, this nation's politics, without dealing with the root cause, then you're lost. Because at the end of the day, you will cut the branch, it will spring up again when it rains. And you'll keep thinking, we are working, but things are not coming through. No, it's because you've not dealt with the root cause of the problem. So the root cause of the problem in this particular case is that people are at a point where they are largely hopeless. And they expect everything to be coming from the other side. They have lost self-esteem. And they are thinking, if that one can give me, that's the one I would go for. Unfortunately, at the expense of their very own children. And that's the danger. Now, should we tune ourselves, or maybe before we go to that, let's go to the element of the long-time cadre of ANT, Paul Milde. At some point, he's moving on, changing a political home from ANT to NUP. The beauty, by the way, what we celebrate most is that he's still in opposition. Which means he's still seeing that the direction in which this nation is going is not appropriate. There is only a change of method that is applying. Because the way NUP positions itself in the bid to change the narrative of this politics nation, and this nation's politics, is different from the way we position ourselves. So there's change of method, but he's still in opposition. And that, while we miss, of course, we need to recognize that he played the role when he was in ANC,
absolutely.
and vital. We appreciate that, and we will miss it. But does that mean that we change the method? I think not. Because this was not just scripted, this was an agreed upon approach. And that's why we have got different political parties, because they play different strategies to get into the political space. So we don't see that one as a problem. While we can understand that he's not being around, he's not being with us, requires us to find something to do to make sure that we keep moving. The beauty is this one. I'm Christian. I am a believer. I believe in Christ. That's my conviction. I subscribe to ANT. What does that mean? I agree with largely the direction ANT is taking. There's some things I might not really agree with, but I'm in an organization. So I need, as much as possible, to observe the way we are doing things, for as long as I'm still believing in the approach. Not everything is going to be 100%, but by and large, I do agree. Now, when I choose, I feel I really do not agree, it is very easy for me to unsubscribe from ANT. But it is going to be very dangerous if I choose not to believe in Christ.
I'm going to ask you two questions.
Yes.
One is going to be based on your belief in Christ. The other is, I'll begin with one about Paul Miru. What are you asked about Paul? I appreciate that he had his efforts that he put forward. Yeah. And he had a good foot in the door, if I must say. But his move does, my question is that it affects the people, because Miru is also one person who had some bit of following.
Sure, yes.
And when he moves, there are some people who are just going to move with him, whether they believe in where he's going or not. They'll still move. Does that affect the party? Yes, it does.
It does.
Two, is that he's moving also, again, starts questioning the approach that you are taking and whether some of those leaders believe it is going to get them to where they want to go. Now, it is different if someone has a selfish interest themselves, or they look at the big picture of having to change the space. Don't you think that affects the party? That is one. The second one, on your question about belief, I want to put two scenarios here. Yes. You have a Christian, and then you have, let's say, a Muslim. Yeah. The thing is, both of them believe something.
Yes.
If we are relating this to the situation of Paul Miru, would you say that I mean, I am Christian, but I don't mind that I can move to Islam, because at the end of the day, we both are believing something. Do you think then that what the other one believes in buys into what you believe in, and does that get you to where you're going?
Let me stick more on to the first question. If I got you properly, you know, this is an organization, which is certainly made up of people. And let me use my personal example. I joined ANT because of what the organization stands for.
And sober leadership.
Yes, exactly. And I went in such that I could contribute to see that one come to fruition. Yeah. I was not convinced that because of General Muntu, they let me go. If that happens to be the case, it means the day General Muntu leaves the party, then I should also leave the party. And we have different approaches that we use to be part of an organization. So if your heart is for the organization, the moving of an individual, we cannot hide it, is going to affect you to some extent. But what is the main goal? Is to build the organization. That doesn't mean that we don't sit down and analyze why some people would choose to move, or we do not, or we are oblivious that when people move, some people will move with them. But if we begin choosing to build the organization on individuals, then it means that this organization will live for as long as those individuals live.
Yeah.
But we are building an organization which is to outlive us. So there's something we've got to give out. I mean, something we've got to live, to basically go. I mean, he's a sober gentleman. He made a choice to move. I feel bad that he moved. It affects me. I feel, yes, there are people who are going to move with him. Yes, I do agree, but I have to go back to what I told you at the beginning. Did I go to ANT because I was convinced or I was convicted? And if I'm convicted by the values, by what ANT has, then it's a question of me getting back to say, how then do I position myself to keep going? Because the goal is not to build mere individuals. The goal is to build an organization that even generations to come will come and identify with it because of the direction or because of the way it approaches the situations as far as politics is concerned. I hope I've explained on that particular part. The second question is on
whether, because as relating it to having the ANT and having the NUP, and we appreciate that they both are trying to achieve the same thing. Yes. But would you be okay with someone doing it on another lane? Or because does that also represent your interest? And I was relating it to maybe Christianity, because you brought it up, Christianity and Islam. Would you say, I don't mind you leaving Christianity and joining Islam as long as they're going to the right direction? Does both deliver the same thing?
Great. You see, again, it goes back to individuals. Rogers, you are an adult, I'm an adult. The best I can do is that when we are having a conversation, we can share ideas, we can discuss, we can have principles under which we operate, we can have boundaries. But I can't control you. I can't. Neither could you. Can you control me? When we agree to work in a certain direction, there are synergies. There are things you do, there are things I do that bring up that direction where we are heading to. But should you wake up in the morning and you say, no, what do I have to do? Now, coming to the element of Honorable Mill moving to NUP and rating it with me being Christian and then a Muslim, if he had gone to the current government, you would say something is very serious here. Something is very serious that we've had people completely realizing that maybe let's also join the status quo. Yet we know that that status is not really serving the interest of the big section of Ugandans. But he is still in opposition. So there is at least, let me use that statement. It might be a little bit meaningful. He is still in opposition. Now, it is not up to us to say, but NUP is doing things in the wrong way, because at the end of the day, we were created very, very different. And that's why we have different approaches. And the beauty is that we are all vying to change the narrative of this nation's politics. Surely what happens when we get into power, either us or NUP, would be, it is for that time to, it would be for that time to tell. But as of now, we are fighting a common enemy.
In other words, he's left one church and joined another in the same faith. Thank you very much. We're going to go just for a little, very short break. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. Please do throw in your comments and questions in the comment section on our Facebook handles, the Alternative Uganda TikTok TV. I'll be able to read them later on in the second hour so that we can share knowledge. At the end of the day, the reason why we come here is not because we have all the answers. It is because we want to learn and to grow together. So that means we could be could tell one or two things that we know, and you could advise us on some of those. So we want to learn from each other. So do throw in some of those comments or questions, and at the end, at some point in the second hour, I'll be able to read them out. And of course, we'll have to provide some answers to it. So let's go in for a very, very short commercial break. We will be right back. Don't change.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, did you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
You're welcome back from that short commercial break, ladies and gentlemen. My name again is Roger Studiawe, and together with Sylvin, we are trying to to understand what the party that he represents and he so passionately believes in, where it is and where is it going. Because as much as he believes in it and as much as it is there, also with all of the people of Uganda, it's trying to secure the future, as the common phrase has been said. So I hope that you've learned one or two things. I think he has been a bit extensive at expounding at some of the questions, and I think those are common questions that a lot of Ugandans had. And now we want to get to the party leadership itself. And a lot of the ANT leadership is interim, that acting this, acting that. What is that? What does that mean?
Great. So the constitution of the party has all indicators that you need to have the party formal leadership put up right from the entire process, like we said, beginning from the grassroots. Mm-hmm. So right from the grassroots, at the end of the, after some time, of course, during the trainings and building committees within the grassroots, we'll end up having delegates. and then we call for the delegates conference. And then from now, the delegates conference is when we are going to have these official representatives of the party elected. That's the reason we have an interim committee. And like I mentioned, right after the party had been launched, when the grassroots meetings had just started, COVID came in. And so there was not really enough time for the party to get down to build the structures from the local level, to the point that then we have got the delegates conference, and then we have all these spaces, all these gaps basically filled. So whatever you're seeing within ANT right now on the interim is actually volunteering. It's somebody who says, you know what, or somebody that is seen and approached and then given the responsibility to play that role. Basically, that's how we are. Up until we have the grassroots structures, that we have the delegates, that then we have got the delegates conference, that then we'll be able to elect those credible, those leaders. Then, as of now, we're going to still be operating within the interim. It has disadvantages, of course, but there is no way we are going to easily loop over or skip the process because we want to appear as though we have the structure. It is still going to be questioned by the Constitution.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I have two questions for that. One is, do you feel that is affecting the performance of the party itself? One. Two is, it is 16th of November today. This year is literally done.
Sure.
2024 means we have literally 1.5 hours to the next election cycle. And I would assume that you are also looking at presenting yourselves for the next term of governance in this country, in the political structures. How do you think you are prepared in the period that is coming up to still be able to have those structures, but also to compete in that political process? In other words, how long do you see to have a delegates conference that has those duly constitutionally constituted leaders from the grassroots, as you're doing the grassroots mobilization, and then that you are ready to be able to run in the next election cycle?
So, yes, we are being affected that we do not have a clear structure of the party, as in people in their respective responsibilities playing their roles. But should we just stand up and say appoint Rogers and Sylvin for these different responsibilities, put them there to begin, yet the Constitution requires us to elect them? I think not. That's why I was telling you that there's no right of doing a wrong thing. We have a guiding document. Does that call us to be sort of have an excuse? Absolutely not. We shouldn't be having an excuse. And that's why we are building this, we are doing grassroots mobilization. The challenge certainly we have is the challenge of resources. Currently we have got one team. Ordinarily, if we are to finish the process in time, at least by the end of 2024, we would need a minimum of 3. But the best working one would be 4 teams operating at the same time. Should we leave it to one team, it's going to take us 5 years. That's not really what we want. So we are working towards having another team, then another team, so that at the bare minimum, maybe within a day, if you have 3 teams, you are getting to 6 sub-counties, which means chances are you can easily, if a district has about 12 sub-counties, you can easily get in there, should you all go to that same district, you can easily get in there in 3 days, you've finished.
And have gone around
yes,
the whole
you've gone through all the sub-counties, and on the 3rd day, you've held the district meeting and you've moved on. But at present, not yet, because of resources. It's a cost. You've got to have transport, you've got to have accommodation, and there's a lot of work that is involved. So that's the challenge we are basically facing. Are we preparing for 2026? Certainly, yes. That's why we are doing this. So we are working towards getting the resources and creating the teams, and then continuing to expand our coverage on a daily basis as and when we are doing the grassroots mobilization.
In your mobilization, while you go through, and I've tried to sort of follow your social media handles, I would say that you've been to a lot of districts in all regions. But even in that whole process of going through the community mobilization, do you feel the people are, do you think people are responsive? And I'm not saying this to mean that you will not say they are not responsive, but even in their responsiveness, is there willingness for them to join the structures, in a sense that should you call for a delegates conference, you still have to get all of those representatives and be able to even contribute, because some of the questions you have are finances and resources. Yes. Are the people also willing to support in all of that?
Incidentally, we tend to underestimate the people in the communities, and we think they are always there, to receive. That's not the case. At least for places I've been to. That's not what I have found. Even in their conversations with us, we've had people say, what can I do? What can I do? We've had people come to say, I want to be a member. And we don't give out free cards. We say the card is 3,000 shillings, and the person moves direct to go and buy the card. And they're asking us, where can I find the cape, right? Where can I find the T-shirt? Now, when somebody, and he's not asking that one, of course, yes, you will meet some who think that the capes and the T-shirts and the cards should be for free, but there are those who come and say, how much is it? And you tell him, and you don't see him really looking down. You see him saying, okay, I don't have the money now, but are you bringing them to the office? Sometime to come, when can I come to pick it at the office? Now, if somebody has got that expression, you can largely rely on that person. And when you keep in conversation with him, chances are, when you invite him for this delegates conference, he will come. But also, if you tell him, as and when you can, kind of give us 2,000 shillings maybe per month through this method, chances are that somebody will actually give you that money. Because if somebody is willing to buy a T-shirt of 25, 30,000 shillings, surely, and for the party that he identifies with, for an organization he identifies with, I don't think it will be difficult for him to say, let me give you 5,000 per month, let me give you 2,000 shillings per month. So, those are the elements that we basically find in the community. And of course, one would say, like you mentioned, I don't think you would tell me they are not responsive. I wish you would actually come down as a journalist and see the kind of attention they give and the questions they ask. They are hurting yet legitimate questions, which means they're yearning for change, but they are looking for where to begin from. And that's what keeps us going. As and when you get to a place, sometimes you are super exhausted. It's emotionally draining.
It is.
And as a volunteer, there are other things you've basically put aside for the sake of this particular activity. And then you're almost giving up. But then you find the enthusiasm people have. They're not many. Like we mentioned, we don't call many. we hold meetings, we don't hold rallies. But then you listen to how they're expressing themselves, how they are putting their feelings forward, how they are asking and things they really would love to do. You realize, okay, you know, my labor is not in vain. And that, as far as I'm concerned, at least for me, that's what keeps me moving. That I feel if there is an opportunity I can create and there's another mobilization exercise, I need to join. So we're going to keep doing that, cognizant of the fact that 2026 is so near.
It is,
right?
Very nice.
Yes, so we are working on a clock and we are working within our means. The challenge would be if we choose to figure out other means of getting resources, and there are many means of getting resources, but they have conditions.
Yeah. They have interests.
They have interests. So we also need to be keen on what resources are we receiving and what conditions are there. Do they align with what we believe in? Remember when I was saying we're interested in building an organization. Of course, it's made up of people, but we are not going to build individuals. Would like the individuals to grow within an organization, but not the individuals to grow to make the organization. Because the day we lose those individuals, we lose the organization.
Yeah, that's right.
So, in that sense, then we've got to be very keen also on the resources that we get. What conditions are attached? We will not just accept any money because it is money after all and it is what we need to go into the communities. No, we will have a conversation and see if that aligns with what we basically stand for. Because we don't want to promise, then do something shoddy from the back end, then it comes back to bite us after some time. Yeah. So the challenge we're experiencing it, we're working towards that. We're praying and working towards getting resources to get the teams, as many as at least 3 to 4, to be sure that we are covering a bigger group on a regular basis. But the challenge, and it's a challenge we've got to face, we are not going to loop over. I'll keep using this word. We are not going to skip the right step because we want quick results. Because we will not be able to account for it at some point. And when we start wrongly, chances are when your inefficiencies or deficiencies show up, you will struggle to reconcile the two. Yeah.
All right. I hope and I pray that all of those efforts do play out. My other question is on the youth's question.
Yes.
The youth. And I understand also the NT has a youth league, much same as almost all the other parties. Now, that is not to say that other parties are performing. Their non-performance is their question to answer. But what are you seeing for the youths? What is your approach? How do you see youths involved? Because there are also people who are largely now contributing to these processes. As much as most of them are being used really, they still have or could be a very good force to be able to support the base and move forward a vision such as that one. What is it? How are you seeing the youth? How are you utilizing their efforts and power and energy? And what is your approach? What is your direction for the youth?
There is actually a lot of space for the youth to operate within ANT. The challenge one would have to face here is to think that the youth go in this direction ever and always, then just allow them to operate in any direction they really want to operate. If it is an organization but without the standards, the expectations, the boundaries, then it is not an organization. It is something very different. But we have got space for youth within ANT. As far as the leadership is concerned, would need to have of course, we have got the youth league coordinator and the team. Would love to have the what we call university chapters, who at least as much as possible to every university, and that one is something we are working on. And then from these particular chapters end up having a fully fledged, youth league that has its structure very, very clear, but of course operating within the organization. Here's one of the challenges we are facing. I don't know about other parties. The youth feel NT does not have vibe. That's the common word. It's true. In their context, there's no vibe. But when that becomes the main concern, it's as though, like I had said before, you are waiting to see what next I've done, so that you can basically come. So you're being attracted by only what I've done, and should I operate less than the standard, the chances are you're going to basically pull out. But what we'd like to see from the youth is this. Do you see that we stand for something that is of importance? Because remember, youth is transitional. At one time you were young. Yeah. Now you're here. Some days to come, you will not be in the group.
I'll be out of it.
Exactly. It's transitional. So if we see that what we have as ANT is something you subscribe to, and I know, well, quite a number of them are being used in different forms and basically being rerouted in their minds. And it's going to be very difficult in their adult age when they look back and realize they were really lied to. But there are those, and we are grateful to them, there are those, not so many, but some, who still are coming closer to see how can we. So I would like to encourage, in this case, the youth. One, to approach us, we are approachable. We will listen, and we will give the space within which they can basically operate. And we do not have all the answers. There are very many things the youth can do. Even that vibe can be created. But you don't want to create a rowdy vibe. You don't want to create a vibe that is just chaotic. You can do good things with vibe. That's what we're thinking about. The challenge would be if, and when you say you don't have, sometimes I find when people are talking about you don't have vibe, it's as though we are not making news. The question is, what are we doing in making news? What news are we making? Are they news that will leave you, Rogers, wanting to find out where does that party have an office? Are they news that will leave you, Rogers, wanting to find out how can I speak to Sylivin or another member of the party to participate in the party? Are they news that you would want to speak of and happily, right, to influence a community down there? So that's why for me I get a bit of a challenge. No vibe. I surely agree to some extent. There is no vibe as far as the word vibe in itself is concerned. But what is contained in that vibe?
I'm going to have these inquiries too. One is, and it has been a common sentiment that yours is more largely diplomatic as opposed to the political, as far as the political face is known. Now, the vibe, and that's what rallies the youth, and that was what has rallied the youth since time immemorial. Certainly keep doing that. At the party, what is it that you can do to make sure that that vibe feeds into what you are building? That the vibe is not taken away, because that's what attracts them. If it's not there, they won't come, and that's what it is. There's no gray area about that one. How is it that the party can utilize that vibe to its own advantage? Because I also feel like you are losing that touch of the youth if you say that we will not entertain this because you have these elements among the vibe that you want. At the end of the day, the youths are disruptive. The youths are not conventional.
I do totally agree that youths are disruptive.
Yeah. So I want to understand how is it that the party can feed that vibe, feed it the right information, and still be able to not lose touch with
it. But let's agree, Rogers, that being diplomatic does not mean that you're not political. It all depends. Then probably it is the way somebody is defining politics. You can have the vibe with diplomacy. Diplomacy does not mean that you're cowing and you're doing it now. You know? So, in my view, what I would really love to see at this very point, one, there is space for anybody in ANT to operate, to contribute, to add. The question is, does it add value? Right? Because if we keep saying vibe that is directionless, vibe that you want to have an event and you're not calling for action, for other people to come and participate, then we will end up not fulfilling the direction that we basically chose to take. We have no problem with fun, we have no problem with vibe. And again, because we are different in this party, we are wired differently, we need synergies. We need synergies. Maybe I need to listen to this young man, this young lady who says, we can do X, Y, Z. And I join this person. But when you're on the other side and you keep pointing at me, you're basically saying, you are my standard. And it's until when I do something that satisfies you that you will basically join. And like I had mentioned, it means you joining me is conditioned to what I have provided that is holding you there. Yet I would love that, Rogers, when you come, you are a soccer player, or you love soccer for that matter.
Yes, I do.
And say, I think as ANT youth, we can arrange this, we can make this soccer arrangement. What's the problem with that? That's a very good thing. You could be a lady talking about an activity with young ladies. Could be an engagement of another form, driven by the young people. At an age of somebody who is 45, 50, it's going to be not so easy to pull him to say, he can come and officiate the march, but he might not really basically stay. So we need the youth to come with those ideas and say, you know what, we can do this, we can do this, we can do that, we can do that. Again, in an environment that is basically available. I surely, up to today, I hope the vibe they're talking about is not the vibe of waking up in the morning and I get on the road and I'm burning tires and doing what? Or finding somebody on the road and is my opponent or is another party and I shout at him, or we do this exchange, doing funny, irrelevant things. I just hope that the vibe you're talking about is something that is attracting many young people of the same mind and adding weight and influence and visibility to the party. That space is available. Do we have many? No, we do not have. We need them. We need them. We don't have many young people. And those who are there, they're also doing within the capacities and the talents that they basically do have. You cannot have me and you, if we are having a conversation, we might end up only doing what we can afford because of the way we are wired, and can't be really perfect because we'll be missing out some elements because God is so smart. He created a vast range, big range of characters and behaviors and all these things within different people. As we are speaking, we are here speaking, somebody is on a camera, somebody is on the other side, you know, doing the recording, somebody is following online. You need those people. We cannot do everything there. As the two of us, we cannot speak, hold the camera, do the recording, and do the response on social media. We can't do that. So we call upon the youth. There is space to operate. Those who see that where we are heading or the direction we are taking as an organization, as a party, is the right direction. Because I can guarantee you, in their days when they are not youth, in the youth class, I don't mean when they are not youthful, but when they are not in that category defined by the age brackets, they will be glad they joined when they were young. The challenge is to leave it to the old ones right now and say, those guys don't have vibe. When you're getting to the age, you'll probably not be having vibe too. And someone will be telling you, you guys don't have vibe. So the best is to come and we join efforts. We have some young people, some young ladies and men we go with to the grassroots mobilization. And they have space to speak. Because at least when you do the demographics of the areas, you will still find the biggest number of the people in attendance are in the brackets of the youth. And we sense it. We sense it when these young people pick up the microphone. Even if you give him 5-10 minutes, you see fellow young people really very, very attentive. We need them. They are a vital asset to the party. My prayer is that they do not sit on this side and keep looking at the other side, keep looking at us on the other side and saying, you know, you're not doing this, you're not doing this, you're not doing this. We are not there to be judged. We are only there to serve in the capabilities we have. And we are not serving because we are the best. We are serving because we feel our heart is inclined to participating in changing the narrative of the politics of this nation. I'm forgetting the lady who was quoting, I think, a president in the USA that mentions that it's not, the credit does not necessarily go to the people who on the other side watching and pointing fingers. The credit goes to the person within the arena.
The man in the arena.
The man in the arena.
Yes.
I think it's Brené Brown. So may they come into the arena and experience it with us. And I can tell you they are a vital asset. They move things. And if things are moving right, in the right direction, then along the way, because if we don't do that, if they don't really join in, they're probably also buying into this other statement that politics is a dirty game.
I also wanted to understand this side of it. I've sort of interacted with some of the youth leaders and members at that. Do you think they have bought or they understand exactly the ideology of the party, so much so that they can be able to sell it to their fellow youths? I've met many of them, and I've asked them, why are you a part of the ANT? And some of them could not really put it to front that this is why, and this is the reason why I joined, and this is why I'll certainly be a part of it for a good time. Do you think maybe that needs a bit of strengthening, so that then they can spread your kind of vibe to their fellow youth? Do you think that is a thing that has been given attention to?
I think yes. We may be looked at as though we have not given it a lot of attention, but you know, change does not happen just at once. Myself, when I was joining ANT, it wasn't because I had found all my answers. I joined because having read, and I had to put, by the way, 3 different documents on the table, 3 different parties, and I read through, and I said, this is where I want to belong. I didn't get all my answers at the beginning. I didn't get all my answers halfway. I haven't gotten all my answers. What does it mean then? But because I made the move to join ANT amidst all other parties, it is my responsibility to keep finding out exactly what made me choose to be there. Is it a responsibility of the people in ANT? Yes, but it's equally a responsibility on me to keep finding out what I aspire for while I serve within this party. That said, I'm not underestimating the fact that probably some have not as such grasped the clear, or have not grasped clearly the ideology of the party. It takes time. So if you find somebody who joined 10 days ago, 3 months ago, yes, you're going to find some people are saying, you know what, me I like Muntu. And it's okay, and he's right. You'll find a lady saying, me, with Winnie Kiza, wherever she is, basically, I am with her. Another one will go for Honorable Lasso. Another will be surprised. Some will say, no, me, I read the document. I am attached to that. I'm attached to this, that is document that people are trying to make sure that it come out live. So work is 2-way. One, to get back and make an assessment. Are we giving these people enough space, enough time to understand what the party is all about? But also on their side, they have an opportunity to probe, to question, right? And to ask for space to operate, to say, does this keep us in the direction of where we are heading, or it violates, or it demeans, or it reduces the chances of heading to where we are basically heading? I would be lying to you that even when, like, I'm Christian, that my church is 100% what I want it to be. Because it cannot be an individual's interest and every individual's interest in terms of satisfaction. There are going to be some of the things that I don't identify with, but the question is, are they major? Are they the non-negotiables? You know, so getting back to the response on that, we are trying our best. We think that those joining will be patient enough and inquisitive enough or curious enough to keep finding out how best they can position themselves within the party to find value in what they have subscribed to.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. I think we've done some fair justice to the questions and the whole thing about the ANT. The questions will never end. We'll certainly have more tomorrow and the day after that and another year. But I hope that answers most or majority of them. And maybe when we have more, which we will do, we'll reach out to you or any official of the ANT. And one last person, I think I wanted to understand before we move, and I hope that you can answer in just like a minute or two so we can move to another agenda item. Who is the spokesperson of the ANT?
Very good question. Currently, we don't have an official spokesperson. So the load or the responsibility falls on the interim coordinator, Honorable Ali Salaso. That's how we go about it. So if what happens usually, if there is something that needs to be responded to by a party, you have an interim committee meeting, they agree on a direction or the response, and this response is shared
by the coordinator.
By the coordinator.
Oh, okay, all right. All right, so I think, yes, that is, I think we can move on from that one. The other thing, which we have not so much time to debate about, is the National Health Insurance Scheme.
Mm-hmm.
It is a discussion that is in very many spaces right now. A lot of people are trying to make sense of that. And if I'm putting to comparison, in the East African community, I think it's only Uganda and South Sudan that do not have the National Health Insurance Scheme. Rwanda boasts 95% health coverage in Rwanda.
Mm-hmm.
In Uganda, from the statistics I was reading, 38% individuals cater for their health, and then 41% are catered for by like development partners, donors, funders, and all of that. And then government is catering for about only 16%. And there's this whole health question, and we have a lot of health disparities. And I was seeing some of the statistics that about 1.5 million Ugandans become poor, fall back into poverty because of health expenditures.
Sure.
Yeah, and for like all of that in the balance, what do you think about this whole bill, and how do you think it's feasible to address this kind of challenge?
Great. Well, I think the idea of health insurance is a brilliant idea. But me and you, Rogers, we know in this nation we have had very many brilliant ideas.
Okay.
Many.
Yeah.
And they have ended up not proving to have been brilliant as we envisaged them. Where is the problem? The team, the people executing on those ideas. And it's not matter that the team is not skilled. It's more about the character. It's more about the interest of the individuals within the team executing the ideas and the positions or the powers they hold therein where they're executing the ideas. And so they end up not being fruitful or useful to the people where they were basically popularized, communicated, and marketed. They end up being there and not very, very helpful. It's a good idea to have health insurance, but it can be a white elephant as well. Because we have had several. Bonawa Gagawari, you can name them. You know, Bonawa Gagawari, there's NADS, there's a Nyoga. We're having PDM coming. I mean, it's now running, and we have started seeing some of the issues with PDM. Some people are beginning to be imprisoned, but also in some places you go to communities and they tell you you're not going to get, you know, you're not totally wafe. But then you're saying you're giving this community. You're not identifying them with whichever party they belong to or colors, but you still find people being pointed at. You're not going to get because you don't belong to us. Yet, at least even if I wasn't Christian, you do to people what you'd wish to be done to you. It's not even, it doesn't have to be somebody who reads the Bible. Love your neighbor as you love yourself is the basic principle for anybody who wants to survive or thrive in any community. But if PDM can come and you start aligning it to people who probably voted you or you anticipate they're going to vote you or who, then there's a much, much bigger problem. Back to health insurance. We are very well known in Uganda at putting documents right.
Oh, yeah.
When you read it, you really identify with it.
You have a reputation.
A reputation for documenting.
Very good one at that.
Whereas other countries have got a reputation for copying with pride and implementing on their side. So we script, we draft, we approve. Execution, almost zero. You know? So we can end up having a very, very, very good document for health insurance. but on execution, not. The challenge here is this, and that's why for us from the ANT side, if you don't deal with the foundations, then you're going to be struggling on top there. In the first instance, for example, are those statistics valid? When we were going down to communities, we were having situations where people tell us that the drugs come into the health center 2 or 3, and within just 1 week,
they run out.
They have run out. So will health insurance resolve the issue of the medicine?
Actually, one of the question was on the which regulating body, because yes, we have the National Health, I think Health Insurance Regulatory Authority, something like that. And then we also have the Ministry of Health.
The Ministry of Health.
So there was still a question on which one of these is going to be the implementing bodies and which one is going to be accountable.
And me and you, we know, have got, on almost every sector, we have different institutions basically duplicating work. And you'll be finding people struggling to say, no, it should go to this institution, or it should go to this institution. We have, for example, almost an entire duplication of the ministries at State House. You wonder who is doing what.
We have an officer for something that aligns with the work of every ministry. Literally, the work can still be done the other side of that.
Exactly.
The ministry, yes.
So, in my view, it's a good idea. We can go on and debate it. We can go on and draft it. It can be approved. The question is, are we working on this with an actual appeal that is from within? Is it an intrinsic move, or it is a facial thing that you want to put across in preparation to buy yourself some time and some other things up front? Because health insurance is not necessarily a difficult thing within a disciplined community. You've given statistics in Rwanda. And by the way, it's not that everybody in Rwanda is capable of paying that money.
Absolutely.
No? But there are mechanisms where at least somebody knows that he or she is not going to die of malaria because he lacks insurance. 15,000 is not a lot of money, but to whom are you handing over these 15,000 in this nation? When very many cases, including but not limited to things like poor people's iron sheets being stolen.
And I want, I'm glad you mentioned the 15,000. Yes. They were trying, another question that has been largely on this table is the question of affordability. I think we have the worrying number of Ugandans living under the poverty line. Ugandans who do not know what tomorrow holds as long as they live through today. They live through every day. And the president has already said, we call it Chida Chonka and those things. And there's many of them. Sure. In fact, I would say majority of Ugandans are in that space. Do you think even the costing, because they were at first, because the bill was passed in 2021 by Parliament, and then the president refused to assent to it because a lot of companies felt it wasn't fair. The bill was saying that if you work for a company, your employer should be able to contribute 50% of your annual contribution. And then they were saying that is unfair, we need to regulate that. And then they came back and said, you know what, so it means that people who are in the formal sector are going to be paying about 4% of their salary and maybe around 1% for their employees, I think. And then saying that those in the informal sector will be able to pay about 100,000 per year. But I also hear the discussion about the 15,000 depending on affordability. How do you see in our space of poverty, Ugandans being able to, for someone who fights to get what to eat today, how do you see them being able to contribute 100,000 or 15,000? As much as the insurance scheme is good, do you think some portion of Ugandans are going to be left out in this one?
So the 15,000 is per year?
I believe yes. I think it's a year.
You see, this one.
There's two. There's one who was suggesting 15,000. Then there was also 100,000. So I need to get.
Let's assume it is 15. In a country that believes in what you're saying and what you're doing, 15,000 for a local person in the village, those are 3 moments he can go to dig for that money, or to work for that money elsewhere, and be able to pay his or her insurance. But that is if he trusts you, that you actually mean to give him health insurance. So attached to the poverty itself and that mindset, there's a mindset of, I don't trust you. It doesn't take him too long to say, I just do not want, because there has been a series of things that have been done, unfortunately not the right way, that you lose trust in the government. Now, let's go to the issue of 50% payment really by the organization, and then again you see the mindset of the one who is drafting that and putting those figures. I don't think is really being considerate, because I do not think they have not done benchmarking. We see parliamentarians going out in and out almost all the time doing benchmarking. And let's hope that when this one becomes stale, they don't still ask to go benchmark somewhere else, because they are full of excuses of benchmarking and they come back with almost no report. If you move across in the neighborhood, you cannot, where you can just drive, you can easily see that when they say give us 7,000, I think 7,000 or a bit less, Rwandan francs, which is a little higher than 15,000 here, you will see that is being put to use.
There's value.
There's value to that. I do not think 4% for an employee is a lot of money, plus 1% being paid of the employer. I don't think. But there's always that other question. We have not seen things work. How sure can we be that this one is going to work? It's going to be another thing they put across and it's just documented, but it's not operational. Yet we really need health insurance. There's also a possibility some institution or some organization can go into a community and say, you know what, in Rwanda, I have some of my friends who go to communities and find a section of 100 people and say, you know what, we cannot have these people really without health insurance. A poor community. I say, you know what, I'm going to gather my friends. There are moments I've also contributed, at least to that team. And he's looking for, just insure one person. And he's saying 3,000 Rwandan francs. Just give me 3,000 Rwandan francs. And before you know it, he has a report that the money that he's collected or she's collected is going to insure at least 150 people for the entire year. But I think they also do it because they know when they deposit that money, it's going to be meaningful. In an environment like this, not so many, because they have not they trusted you for quite some time to the point that now they no longer trust you. And it's going to be difficult to make them trust you now. If you failed then, how then do you claim you're going to do it right today? That said, it does not negate the need for health insurance, but it so much requires of our government and the officials to touch themselves a little deeper and ask themselves if they are always presenting these things in the interest of the citizens and they're not driving their self-interest, their own interests.
And still on the question of affordability, I had some of the proposals because there are people who may not necessarily afford. They were saying they'd use the village, those VHTs, village health teams, to identify who are the people who can afford to pay this amount and who are the others who cannot afford to pay. Do you think even the VHTs will be in position to deliver on that? Because I personally had some feeling that that will also be another ground, breeding ground for corruption. One or two people will say, I can't afford, and they'll give us, and that's, it goes like that.
Obviously, you will still find that you're largely going to find that it's those who can afford that have registered themselves as though they cannot afford.
Exactly.
Which is going to be, again, another nightmare in a way of executing it. Did you know, let me bring this one across. Did you know that in some places where we've got refugees, in Uganda, communities in the neighborhood, some people advise them to register as refugees because they see refugees getting better services than they are getting in the communities.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. So there's a likelihood you are the VHT, I know you. Besides, remember the VHTs are not also grounded. They are not firm.
They are usually missionary themselves.
Exactly, yes. They can be easily compromised. So I have a family, and I can see paying 15,000 per person for 10 people, that's 150,000. Surely I'll give you your 20 and you register my people. So you still end up having the less privileged, or the vulnerable in this case, not being helped. Yet the VHT will actually bring you the list. These are the people we found that deserve to get on that particular scheme. But that does not mean that we still don't have the health insurance scheme. It means that whoever is in the position of responsibility and has a role to play should think about the citizens, the people, these vulnerable people, more than he or she thinks about what he or she gets out as an individual. Unfortunately, that has been a vice in our communities, and it is still growing. I don't know until when. That's the danger we have.
I know. So for me, again, I think I would also agree with you. Largely, I think we need the scheme because a lot of people really can't afford out-of-pocket expenditures.
Yes.
Very many of our people in the communities cannot afford that. So if there was some sort of scheme that can support them, I think that would be a very good move. But also, running out of time, I want to give you a few minutes to conclude on today. What your takeaways? Feel free. Ugandans, what is it you want them to do? One, for the NT, how do we move forward? How do we interest people, those who love you from a distance? What do we do for them? How can you encourage them?
Let me begin from that. Fellow Ugandans, don't love us from a distance. Just come and join us. One, we are available for conversations. We are available for any form of discussions. We are open. The fact that we are not, quote unquote, having the vibe, or we are not, I don't want to use the word violent. The fact that we are careful about what we are doing does not mean that we are not interested, or we are not appealing, we are not really attractive. There are very many things that we can do together as Ugandans. And politics is not violence, politics is not lying, politics is making sure that this nation, everyone in this nation gets what he or she deserves, and depending on how he or she has positioned himself, gets to his advantage and to his expectation, without having all these other elements. You know, somebody ate my money, somebody did this. ANC is an open party. And I don't just want to use the word values, because you can easily speak about values and don't live the values. But it's a party that has got members that aspire and always day and night work to live the lifestyle they profess, the lifestyle they mention, or work to live to the standards of the values. It's a difficult thing in this nation where you're doing things differently and there's a way they have been used to. But if we want to change, we've got to go with the efforts that requires us to change. And it's a big, big effort. It's going to be a resolve. We're going to sacrifice a number of things. We're going to sacrifice time. We need volunteers in every aspect. We need volunteers in the communications department. We need volunteers in the research. We need volunteers in policy analysis. We need volunteers. And I would love that these people are basically members of the party that are willing to give in 1 hour, 2 hours of their time, maybe per week or per month, to participate in building the party, but also making sure that the party is known, is visible out there. Because we are not selling air, we are selling value. And we are ready to do whatever it takes to make sure that only that what we sell out is value. We pray that people join us because they are convicted and they want to work with us, and they are ready to move the direction that will see this nation different, change the culture. The culture of Uganda's politics is abhorring, but we can work together to change this culture. I want to thank you, Rogers, for the time. It's been some time since I was last here, and I'm grateful that you thought about me and made me come. Much of what I've said is a personal feeling as an ANT member, but that's what I subscribe to, and I'm basically ready to do as much as I can possibly afford. For as long as I live, this is where I'm going to be playing my politics.
I don't know if I've heard a lot of people say for the rest of their lives, as long as they live, that is where they're going to be. But thank you so much for being a part of the conversation, and thank you so much for making the time. And I hope that the people will see that which you are giving your whole life to, and that they will understand and join you in the process. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. It has been an interesting one. I personally have learned quite a number of things. One about the party itself, but also about the issue of the National Health Insurance Scheme. And I hope that can be a continued conversation. Please continue the conversation. You can still have the comments dropped in the comment section. Maybe that will build another conversation for another time. We'll get an expert about that one. So thank you so much for being a part of us. My name is Roger Suriabu. Have yourselves a very good morning.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.